Hey, Wonderhussy here, hanging out on the outskirts of the historic gold mining town of Goldfield, Nevada. At one time, believe it or not, Goldfield was the biggest city in Nevada. It had a gold boom in the early 1900s. Gosh, like the very early 1900s. And at one time there was 20,000 people living here. I don't remember how much gold all these mines produced, but it was the biggest gold strike in Nevada. It was a huge boom. 20,000 people. I don't know how many saloons and brothels. It was a wild friggin' place. Nowadays, of course, it's more of a ghost town. I think there's only about 300 people who live here. But it's not just tourism that's keeping this town alive. Interestingly, there are still active mines being worked here. I mean, you can see here just outside town, there's some kind of active mine operating right here. That's a mine shaft, and they're probably digging gold out of the ground as we speak. In fact, I just heard that some huge new gold deposit was discovered here in Goldfield, like pretty recently. I don't know how, somehow I missed this news over the summer, but a few months ago, I guess some company discovered a huge new gold strike in Goldfield. Apparently it's not totally tapped out. And from what I heard, and actually read this online too and confirmed it, I guess the gold deposit is right under the highway that runs through town, the US 95. Well, I guess this gold strike has been deemed to be valuable enough that whatever company it is that's mining for this gold is paying to have 2.5 miles of US 95 totally rerouted so they can dig under it to get more gold out. I guess the price of gold's pretty high right now, so it's worth it, but dang, talk about a big project. So I'm out here cruising around, and I thought it might be kind of fun to find the construction project and see for myself if they really are planning to reroute this friggin' highway, because this is the main north-south thoroughfare between Vegas and Reno, and sure, it's not like the busiest highway in the world, but it sees a decent amount of traffic. Anyway, I think I saw some orange cones and roadwork stuff going on down that way a little bit north of town. So I'm gonna drive down there over towards the cemetery actually and see what I can see. Okay, well, unfortunately because of the time of day, the sun is right behind this sign, but look at this. Project Goldfield US 95 Crusher. So I'm guessing that they're gonna reroute the 95 somewhere back along this way. I don't know road work projects. Let me zoom in. I don't want to go any further because it says road closed. I'm not sure what they're doing over there, but I could be grading a new highway. Who can say? So if that's the case, we are just to the west of the 95. You can see the highway runs along right there where that stop sign is. So I guess they're just having to move the road, oh gosh, 1/4 mile to the west. Interesting. So that means the gold diggings must be right here under our feet. Man, it's so weird to think of there being gold still left in these there hills. I mean, if you drive around the east side of Goldfield, back in the hills on the other side of town, I mean, there is nothing but abandoned mine shaft after abandoned mine shaft after abandoned mine shaft after abandoned mine shaft. I mean, they really tapped this place dry. They really plundered these hills. But apparently they haven't given up all their secrets yet. And it's interesting to wonder if the little sleepy town of Goldfield will boom again because of this. I mean, I don't know how big of a gold strike it is, but I mean, if it's big enough to reroute almost 3 miles of highway, that's pretty big. I think I read online that it was estimated to have a 12-year lifespan, the gold mine. So that seems like a substantial amount of jobs, and Goldfield is like 3 hours north of Las Vegas. It's only about 30 miles south of Tonopah, so I suppose anybody working here could live in Tonopah, which has a decent amount of housing, because Goldfield really doesn't have anything. I mean, if you've ever been to Goldfield, you know what I mean. It's awesome, but it's full of really busted old ruins. So it's not like there's apartment buildings or motels. Or one motel, I think, it has like 3 rooms. So anybody who's working at this job site is probably going to have to commute from, well, I'd guess Tonopah. And what's really interesting is the fact that the new dig-ins are actually really close to the Goldfield Cemetery. I mean, to be honest, I can't see a little thing like a cemetery getting in the way of some mining company getting to their gold. But can you imagine what if they did have to dig up this old pioneer cemetery just to get to the gold deposit? And then all the gold that was mined and turned into jewelry was haunted. Oh, I smell a Hollywood movie. In fact, check this out. One of the most interesting graves in this entire cemetery is this one here that's fenced in. Well, it's kind of hard to see because of the shadows on it, but it says Madam Beverly Harrell, a fearless beauty of class and intellect. Cottontail Ranch, Lida Junction, 1967 to 1995. Oh, that was the years she worked at the Cottontail Ranch. This is the grave of the Madam of the Cottontail Ranch Brothel. It's long abandoned. I made a video about it. You can check that out. I'll put the link up here. But it's this brothel that operated for many years right at the, what's called the Lida Junction. It's the junction of US 95 and this road that goes over the Lida Summit towards California. It was a very successful brothel for many years. I mean, according to her headstone, she ran it from 1967 to 1995, almost 30 years. And during that time period, Howard Hughes was one of her clients. In fact, there's a really interesting story about Howard Hughes. I guess he had this one prostitute that he really liked who worked out there named Sunny. And so he would go out there to visit Sunny. And somehow he ended up stranded at the brothel, which is like 2.5 hours north of Vegas. He got stranded out there once. I'm not sure what happened. His private plane left without him or something. Howard Hughes, the billionaire, you know, the guy who peed in jars and wouldn't cut his fingernails, that Howard Hughes, got stranded at this Cottontail Ranch brothel. And he was just, according to the story, he was just walking along a dirt road in the desert towards Vegas, and some old miner came bumping along in his jalopy and offered him a ride into town. So he accepted, and he rode all the way into town with this Mormon miner named Melvin Dummar, who years later it came out claimed that Howard Hughes had written him into his will. And he even produced a copy of the will that left a bunch of Howard Hughes' fortune to this random Mormon miner who gave him a ride one day. Now, that was hotly disputed and in litigation for years, and I don't think he ended up getting any of the money. But if you read into the story, it's a really interesting story, and I don't know, man. It seems almost kind of plausible. Howard Hughes was a strange dude, and he probably was so grateful at this guy just giving him a ride into town, you know, and they had 2 hours in the car together to get to know each other. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Howard Hughes did leave him some of his fortune. But I'm pretty sure Hughes' heirs put the kibosh to any of that, and I don't think Melvin Dummar got any of the money. And in fact, Melvin Dummar just passed away recently. I want to say like within the last year or so. But anyways, not to digress, that's Madam Beverly Harrell's grave. She was the madam of that brothel, so she presumably knew Howard Hughes. And in fact, she was a fascinating character in her own right. She ended up running for state assembly and supposedly winning because she had some line about how it takes the madam of a clean house to show the Congress how to run a house, or the assembly how to run a house. I can't remember what the line is, but she had some little quip about it. And she was a salty Jewish from New York originally, madam of a whorehouse. So even though she supposedly won the popular vote, I guess the story goes that the good old boys up here saw to it that she didn't actually get the position. So I don't know if she was bitter about it or what, but she's buried here. And so imagine if that gold mining company actually did dig below this cemetery to get all the gold out and displace the graves. And what if the ghost of this Madam Beverly Harrell, I can see this Hollywood movie now. So some dude buys a gold ring or bracelet for his girlfriend, but it's haunted by the feisty Jewish madam of a brothel. I can see it already. I think Bette Midler would do the voice of the ghost. Sounds like a good movie. But unfortunately, it's just speculation. The gold diggings or the rerouting of the highway is actually probably a couple miles north of here. So it's not really that close to the cemetery. But it was just a nice thought. Anyway, that's what's going on here in Goldfield, Nevada. Just wanted to keep you up to date on the fact that it's not just a historic mining town, it's a current one.